Hello everyone. I'm Yumu from Susan's family. Today, I will teach you how to crochet this adorable pet sweater, the cat style. For this electronic tutorial and the pattern, you can search for susud.com to access it. This sweater consists of the body, the bodice, the hem, the sleeves, the collar and the decorations. Let's start with the body. We'll use the chain ring to begin. Crochet back and forth in rounds. Several stitches will be used. All of them are indicated in the pattern. I won't list them here. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Let's begin. Take out the corresponding yarn. The yarn for the sample is random. For specific yarn details, color schemes, and crochet hook size, refer to the detail page of our product and the paper pattern. Start by making a slip knot. Then, follow the pattern to work the required number of chains. The number of stitches for this sample is random. After completing, fold the chains. Make sure the right side is facing you. Don't twist the chains. Slip stitch into the top loop of the first chain. Tighten it. The beginning chain ring is now complete. Move on to work the round one. First, chain 1 as the beginning chain for the single crochet. Remember, the beginning chain doesn't count as a single crochet. Work a single crochet into the same stitch of the previous slip stitch. Then, pick up the top loop of the left chains. Work a single crochet in each of them. And by slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. Round 1 is completed. We consider this side with clear texture of the single crochets as the right side of the body, to make it more convenient when crocheting. From this slip stitch, count half of the total stitches to the left. Then mark the next stitch with a stitch marker. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can use a safety pin or a paper clip. Continue to crochet the round 2. Chain 3 as the beginning chain for the double crochet. This counts as one double crochet. It corresponds to the stitch below where the slip stitch worked. This round needs to be crocheted on the wrong side. Turn the fabric. Work a DC2 tog in the left stitches. First, work 2 unclosed double crochets into the corresponding stitches. Yarn over. Insert into the left stitch. Mind that when on the wrong side, the stitch is on the upper left. Don't work into the same stitch of the beginning chain. Draw the yarn through, then yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. The first stitch is complete. Continue with the second stitch. Finally, Yarn over and draw through all loops in once. The DC2 tog is done. Then work a double crochet into each corresponding stitch. Work all the way until there are 2 stitches left before the stitch marker. When you reach the corresponding stitch, work a DC2 tog. First, work 2 unclosed double crochets into the corresponding stitches. Then yarn over and draw through all loops once. The DC2 tog is complete. Then work a double crochet. Move the stitch marker. Work another DC2 tog. Continue working double crochets in each corresponding stitch. Crochet all the way until there are 2 stitches left. Finally, work a DC2 tog. Then move to the beginning chain. Pick up 2 strands of the top chain. Join with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. Now, move on to round 3. Chain 1 to begin. Work this round on the right side. Turn the work. Work a single crochet into the beginning chain from the previous round. Then work single crochets evenly into each corresponding stitch. Be mindful to move the stitch marker accordingly. End with a slip stitch. Round 3 is done. Move on to round 4. Chain 3 to begin. Turn the work. Work a double crochet into each corresponding stitch. End with a slip stitch. Round 4 is now complete. For the following rounds of the body, just follow the same crochet method as the previous rounds. Crochet a round of single crochets evenly on the right side. Crochet a round of double crochets correspondingly on the wrong side. For some rounds, we will decrease stitches on both sides of the beginning chain and the stitch marker. Remember to mark the placements when crocheting. Be careful not to miss the decrease placements. Just follow the pattern to complete the remaining rounds of the body. After completing round 8, you can measure the size. Compare it with the dimensions provided in the pattern. If there's a significant difference, you can adjust your tension and crochet again, so that the finished sweater is the right size. Next, let's learn about the bodices. The bodice is divided into the back bodice and the front bodice. First, work back and forth in rows to create the front bodice. Then, work the left and right shoulders respectively. Here, left and right refer to when the sweater is being worn. After that, work back and forth in rows to create the back bodice. Also crochet the left and right shoulders respectively. We will use DC3 tog and half double crochet. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Continue crocheting the front bodice using the yarn from the body. In this sample, there are fewer stitches and rounds. It mainly for demonstrating the method. To start, you'll need to carry the yarn across. Pull large the loop. Pass the yarn ball or fabric through the loop. Tighten it. Now, the loop becomes a single strand of yarn. Turn the work. Work the first row of the front bodice on the wrong side. Follow the pattern to skip required number of stitches on the left. In this sample, the number of stitches is random. Join the yarn. Mind to carry the yarn along the fabric. Don't make it too tight or too loose. Then, chain 2. Work a double crochet in the left stitch. Continue following the pattern to work double crochets. At the end, work a DC2 tog. Count the number of the remaining stitches before this left stitch marker. See if it corresponds to the pattern. Row 1 is done. Continue with row 2. Chain 1 to begin. Turn the work. Work single crochets correspondingly. Note that don't work into the last 2 chains from the beginning chain. Row 2 is complete. Move on to the row 3. Chain 2 to begin. Turn the work. The beginning chain correspond to this rightmost single crochet. Work a double crochet in the left stitch. Continue working double crochets into the left stitches. Work a DC2 tog into the last 2 stitches. Row 3 is completed. Follow the same method used in row 2 and row 3, and refer to the pattern to continue. During the process, we will use DC3 tog. I'll demonstrate the crochet method with this sample. Work 3 unclosed double crochets into the corresponding stitches. Then yarn over and draw through all loops in once. The DC3 tog is complete. Continue following the pattern to work. Now, I'll demonstrate how to crochet the left and right shoulders. Refer to the pattern. Start with the left shoulder. First, work the required number of single crochets. After completing, carry the yarn across. Move on to crochet the next row. Join the yarn at the required placement. The placement here on the sample is random. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet into the same stitch. Follow with a half double crochet. Then work the required number of double crochets. End with a DC2 tog. Then follow the same method to work back and forth in rows. Carry the yarn across where needed. Finally, breaking the yarn. Then crochet the right shoulder. At the neckline, skip the required number of stitches. The number of stitches on the sample is random. Join the yarn on the left side. Work single crochets correspondingly. Complete this row. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Continue working back and forth. Remember to carry the yarn across at the neckline. Continue decreasing stitches on the left side. Finally, breaking the yarn. Just refer to the pattern to complete this part. That concludes the tutorial for the front bodice. Move on to crochet the back bodice. Join the yarn at the wrong side, and work back and forth. Decrease stitches on both sides in the rows of double crochets. For the last few rows, crochet the left and right shoulders respectively. Then crochet method is similar to the front bodice. Finally, breaking the yarn. Just refer to the pattern to complete this part. Next, join the shoulders on the wrong side. Hook into both stitches of the last row from the front and back bodice. Work single crochets to join. Work chains to space between the single crochets, or you can join it according to your preference. Just ensure the fabric have a neat texture. Let me demonstrate the specific joining method. Use this front bodice as an example. Note: here the left and right refer to the actual left and right when worn. Place the front piece and the back piece with their right side facing each other, with their wrong sides face out. You can start joining from either side. Overlap and align the shoulders. This sample is the back piece, and this is the right front piece. We'll start from this edge and join all the way up to this double crochet. On the back piece, that would be this double crochet. Hook into several strands from both fabric edges. Join the yarn. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet at the joining placement. Followed by 2 or 3 chains. I'm working 3 chains here. Skip a short distance. Continue working a single crochet into several strands at the edge of the fabric. This distance should be roughly the same as the length of these 3 chains. Make sure the fabric doesn't shrink after completing. And when carrying the yarn across, weave in it as you work. Work a single crochet and 2 or 3 chains alternately to joining when you completing this edge. Fasten off the yarn. That concludes the tutorial for the bodices. Next, let's learn about the hem. Work in rounds counterclockwise with single crochets along the beginning chain ring. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with the round one. Here, locate the slip stitch. Join the yarn at the remaining 2 strands of the chain. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet into the same stitch. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Continue working into the remaining 2 strands of the chains. Work single crochets correspondingly. Complete this round. End with a slip stitch to join. Round 1 is complete. Move on to the round 2. Chain 1 to begin. Work single crochets correspondingly. End with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. For the following rounds, follow the same method as in round 2. Since tension varies from person to person, the number of rounds for the hem is just for reference. You can adjust according to your desired size, or you can refer to the pattern for specific measurement. Don't tighten the last slip stitch in the final round. Let me demonstrate how to fasten off invisibly with this sample. Pull large the loop, leave a 10 cm yarn tail, and break the yarn. Thread it into a yarn needle. Pierce into the second stitch from the left side of the slip stitch. Back to the stitch where the yarn tail is, pierce into the braid and one back strand. Adjust it slightly. Fastening off in this way, there is no slip stitch marks on the surface. The texture looks neater. Weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side along the texture. That concludes our tutorial for the hem. Next, let's learn about the sleeves. There are 2 sleeves. Each sleeve is divided into the sleeve body, the sleeve cap, and the cuff. First, complete the sleeves. Then, join them to the armholes on the bodice. For the sleeve body, begin with the chain ring. Crochet back and forth in rounds. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Let's begin. The method is the same to the body. It just differ in the number of chains. Here my sample has prepared, but the number of chains is fewer. It's mainly for demonstrating the method. Let's begin the round 1. Chain 3 to begin. It corresponds to the chain where the slip stitch is worked. Then, chain 1 to space. Skip 1 stitch below. Work 1 double crochet into the top loop of the chain. Continue with the chain. Skip 1 stitch below and work a double crochet. Repeat this step to complete this round. When completing the last slip stitch, join with a slip stitch to the beginning chain. You can count from the bottom up. Find the third chain. Then join with a slip stitch. Round 1 is complete. We consider the side with the clearer texture as the right side. Now, move on to round 2. Chain 3 to begin. Chain 1 to space. Turn the fabric. Work a double crochet into each double crochet. Work a chain correspond to each chain. Continue this pattern to complete this round. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the beginning chain. Round 2 is completed. From then on, follow the same method to crochet in rounds back and forth. Turn the fabric after each round. Ensure that the double crochets align vertically. Just follow the pattern to complete the sleeve body. Mindful that everyone has different tension. The rounds indicated in the pattern are for reference only. You can crochet until you reach the desired length for the sleeve. End the last round on the wrong side. Just complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the sleeve body. After that, move to the sleeve cap. Start the row 1 by carrying the yarn to the corresponding placement on the right side. Leave an opening for the underarm on the right. Then, work back and forth in rows. Decrease stitches on both sides. Remember to carry the yarn across as you crochet. The method is similar to what you did for the neckline earlier. Just follow the pattern to complete this part. Finally, fasten off the yarn. That concludes our tutorial for the sleeve cap. Lastly, crochet the cuff. Start from the first round of the sleeve. Work single crochets into the chain spaces correspondingly. Work in rounds counterclockwise to the desired length. The method is similar to the hem. Just differ in the working placement of round 1. Just follow the pattern to complete this part. That concludes our tutorial for the cuff. Finally, join the sleeve caps to the armholes on the bodice. Join them on the wrong side. Use the same color yarn of either body or sleeve for joining. The joining method is similar to the shoulders. When joining, match the underarm space. Match the middle of the sleeve cap to the shoulder. Secure other sections with several more placements. Then follow the same method for the shoulder to join. Work into the corresponding placements along the edge. Mind to match the fabrics. And make sure the texture is neat, or you can join according to your preference. That concludes our tutorial for the sleeves. Next, we'll learn about the collar. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise around the neckline. Watch as I demonstrate the specific crochet method. Here I will use this sample to demonstrate. On the right side of the bodice, locate the middle stitch on the front bodice. Join the yarn. Chain 1 to begin. Then crochet in rounds with single crochets. Adjust the working placement of the single crochets according to the reality. Make sure you work the single crochets evenly and the fabric looks neat. And make sure the total number of stitches is a multiple of 4. When carrying the yarn across, weave in it as you work. Follow this method to complete this round. End with a slip stitch. Break the yarn. Round 1 is complete. Move on to round 2. Join yarn at the slip stitch from the previous round. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet in the same stitch. Skip 1 stitch. Work 5 half double crochets in the same stitch. We'll treat this as a fan pattern. From then on, skip 1 stitch and work single crochet and fan pattern alternately. Complete this round. End with a slip stitch and fasten off invisibly. Follow the same method used in the hem to fasten off invisibly. Finally, weave in the yarn end. There we have complete the collar. Lastly, let's learn about decorations. It's divided into front and back piece decorations and sleeve decorations. The front and back piece decorations include ears, eyes, a nose, blush, cheek markings, forehead markings, tail and assembly. Let's start with the ears. There are 2 ears in total. Both begin with the foundation chains. Work back and forth along the foundation chains. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Begin with chains. Refer to the pattern for the exact number of chains. Then crochet row 1, chain 3 to begin. Move to the 5th to last chain. Work a double crochet into its top loop. Then work double crochets correspondingly. In the last 2 chains, work a DC2 tog. Row 1 is complete. Consider this side with the blurry texture as the right side of the fabric. That's the side where the yarn tail is on the right. Now, move on to row 2. Chain 3 to begin. Turn the work. Match the beginning chain to the DC2 tog below. Work a double crochet in the left stitch. Continue work double crochets correspondingly. Work a DC2 tog into the last 2 stitches. Don't crochet into the beginning chain from the previous round. Row 2 is complete. For the following rows, continue working back and forth. Decrease stitches at both sides. Don't crochet into all the beginning chains. Refer to the pattern when decreasing in the final few rows. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail for sewing. That concludes our tutorial for the ears. Now, complete the other ear in the same way. Next, let's learn about the eyes. We'll begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. We will use DC 2 in 1. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Then crochet round 1. Begin with a chain as the beginning chain for the single crochet, then work 5 single crochets into the magic ring. After that, close the magic ring. Tighten the yarn. Join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet. Round 1 is complete. We consider the side with the clearer texture as the right side. Now, crochet the round 2. Chain 1 to begin. Work a SC2 in 1 into the same stitch of the slip stitch. That means work 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Weave in the yarn end. The SC2 in 1 is complete. Continue working SC2 in 1 correspondingly. Complete this round. End with a slip stitch to join. Don't tighten it. Round 2 is complete. Leave a 50 cm yarn tail, and fasten off invisibly. You can hook into the first stitch to the left of the slip stitch to fasten off. Just make sure the fabric stays flat and neat. Break the beginning yarn tail. Leave the long yarn tail for now. And there, one eye is crocheted. Just follow the same method to work the other one. Next, let's learn how to crochet the nose. Begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. We will use SC3 in 1. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. For beginning and the round 1, the crochet method is similar to the eyes. Just follow the pattern to complete this round. Now, I'll demonstrate round 2. Chain 2 to begin. Work a single crochet in the left stitch. Don't work it into the corresponding single crochet of the chain. The next stitch is SC3 in 1. That means work 3 single crochets in the same stitch. The SC3 in 1 is done. Continue working these 2 stitches alternately. After completing the last single crochet, pull large the loop. Leave a yarn tail of 40 cm before breaking the yarn. Fasten off invisibly through the second chain on the left. Trim the beginning yarn end. Leave the ending yarn tail for now. The nose is now crocheted. Next, let's learn about the blush. Begin with the magic ring. Crocheting in rounds counterclockwise. We will use DC 2-in-1. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Chain 3 to begin. Count these 3 chains as 1 double crochet. Work required number of double crochets in the magic ring. Close the magic ring after completing. End with a slip stitch in the beginning chains. Round 1 is complete. Move on to round 2. Chain 3 to begin. These 3 chains correspond to the beginning chains below. Work a double crochet into the same stitch of the slip stitch. This is a special DC 2-in-1. Continue working DC 2-in-1 in the left stitches correspondingly. That means work 2 double crochets in the same stitch. The left stitch may pucker a bit. Mindful not to miss it. The DC 2-in-1 is complete. Continue work DC 2-in-1 correspondingly. End by joining with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. Continue following the pattern to complete round 3. Don't tighten the final slip stitch. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail, and fasten off invisibly. Weave in the beginning yarn tail along the texture. That concludes our tutorial for the blush. Next, let's learn about the cheek markings. There are a total of 6 cheek markings. All begin with foundation chains. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Begin with chains. The number of stitches for the sample is random. You need to follow the pattern to work chains. Then, chain 2 as the beginning chain. In the third to last stitch, work 2 half double crochets into the top loop. Continue working half double crochets into the top loop of the chains. On the last stitch, work 6 double crochets. Now we reach the other side. Also work half double crochets into the top loop of the chains. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Work 3 half double crochets in the initial chain. Then, end by slip stitch into the beginning chain. Leave a 50 cm yarn tail, and fasten off invisibly. That concludes our tutorial for the cheek markings. Next, we'll learn about the forehead markings. It consists of the central marking and side markings. All begin with foundation chains, and work back and forth. Let me demonstrate the method using the central pattern as an example. Begin with the foundation chains. After that, chain 3 as the beginning chain. These 3 chains correspond to the last chain from the foundation chains. Work a double crochet into the top loop of each left chain. Continue working double crochets correspondingly. Work 6 double crochets into the last chain. On the other side, also work double crochets into the top loop of chains. Don't miss the stitch of which correspond to the beginning chain. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail before breaking the yarn. And that's how you crochet the center marking. For the side markings, begin with 2 chains. Then work half double crochets correspondingly. Also leave a yarn tail at the end. Just complete the pattern to complete this part. That concludes our tutorial for the cheek markings. Now let's move on to the tail. Begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. The crochet method is similar to the blush. After completing the first 2 rounds, weave in the beginning yarn end. Keep the right side face out and crochet evenly. When completing, leave a long yarn tail for sewing. Just follow the pattern to complete this part. That concludes our tutorial for the tail. Finally, assembly and sew all the parts together. Place the ears with the right side facing up. Sew them onto both sides of the front bodice. The tips are angled towards the sides. Ensure they are symmetrical on both sides. The sides should be approximately 2 cm away from the sleeves. You can use stitch markers to secure the placements temporarily. Next, arrange the forehead markings on the neckline like this. Mind that the right side with clear texture faces up. The middle forehead marking is in the center. The markings on both sides are placed symmetrically, 1 cm apart from each other. The top of them align with the last round of the collar. Then, place the nose at the center of the front bodice, with the right side facing out. Make sure the edge with the yarn tail is on the top. Place the edges with SC3 in 1 corresponding to the both sides and below. Place the eyes symmetrically on both sides of the nose. Make sure the centers of the eyes and nose are aligned on a line. Place the wrong side of the eyes facing up. Place the blush on either side of the eyes. Also, have the wrong side of the blush facing up. Continue placing the cheek markings symmetrically on both sides. Always keep the right side of the cheek markings facing up. Also make sure place them on the middle of the underarm sides, 1 cm apart from each marking. The placement of decorations varies for different sizes. You can determine the placements according to your preference and the reality. Finally, at the center of the back hem, secure the tail in place, with the beginning section facing up, and tilt it towards one side. You can adjust the shape according to your liking. Once the placement is set, use the reserved yarn to sew along the tail's edge. This way, we sew the decorations onto the fabric below. If there are stitches, simply match the corresponding stitch to sew. Do the same for the beginning chains. For the sides, insert into the edge stitch to sew with plain stitches. When sewing the opening of the tail, make sure to insert the needle through corresponding stitches from top to bottom. For the sides, simply sew the strands close to the fabric. Try not to leave obvious sewing marks on the right side. Note: after sewing the nose and eyes, don't break the yarn tail. We will use them to embroider lines. Finally, embroider lines as whiskers. Feel free to sew according to your preference. Just make sure the decorations is sewn on neatly. For specific sewing methods, refer to the following demonstration. Here, I'm using a sample to demonstrate. Thread the yarn tail from the corresponding fabric onto the sewing needle. Place it correctly. The placement of this sample is random here. Sew along the stitches of the top fabric piece to the bottom one with plain stitches. Gently tighten it. Try to hide the sewing marks as much as possible. Mindfully adjust the placement while sewing to prevent sewing crooked. Finally, tie a knot and weave in the yarn on the wrong side. That concludes how to sew two fabrics together with plain stitch. After all decorations are sewn, I'll demonstrate how to embroider the lines for the eyes and nose. For the nose, bring the yarn out from the center below the nose. Insert the needle about 3 centimeters below. Tie a knot and weave in the yarn on the wrong side. Then, glue the thread onto the fabric securely. Mind not to apply too much glue, to avoid affecting the appearance. Next, embroider the lines for the eyes. Embroider the outline of the eyes on both the top and bottom sides. The placement of the eyes within the outline. You can adjust according to your preference. Then tie a knot and weave in the yarn on the wrong side. You can also use glue to secure the lines. And there the lines for eyes are embroidered. Lastly, embroider the whiskers between the blush and cheek markings. Remember to glue the lines securely. When the yarn is a little bit long, you can carry the yarn across the wrong side of the fabric. This avoids destroying the appearance. Complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the front and back piece decorations. Moving on to the shoulders. Locate the center of the corresponding cuff. Make decorations for the cuffs. These include the ears, the eyes, the nose, the whiskers, and the blush. When crocheting the ears, we will use treble crochet. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Let's start with the ears. Here I will use this sample to demonstrate. Locate the center placement on the cuff corresponding to the shoulder. In this sample, the placement is random. Join the yarn at the 7th stitch on the right. Begin with 2 chains. Then, work a double crochet into the left stitch. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Now, work a treble crochet, yarn over twice. Insert the hook, draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat 3 times. Treble crochet completed. Continue with another treble crochet. Chain 3. Slip stitch into the same stitch. Pull tight and fasten off. One ear is now completed. Join the yarn at the 7th stitch on the left. Chain 3. Work a treble crochet into the same stitch. Continue with a treble crochet. A double crochet. 2 chains. And a slip stitch. Break the yarn. Weave in the yarn end on the wrong side. And there, the ears is complete. Next, take out the yarn for crocheting the eyes. Separate one strand and thread it into a needle. The yarn for the sample is chosen randomly. On the middle of the ear, embroider an invert triangle on the 4th to last round. Embroider this inverted triangle all over. Embroider a line of about 0.5 centimeters to both sides at the bottom. There the nose is embroidered. Then, about 1 centimeter apart on both sides, securely attach 2 beads vertically. You can carry the yarn through the fabric. Sew a few extra times to secure it well. Do the same on the other side symmetrically. Complete this part on your own. Then, embroider whiskers on both sides below. Embroider the other side symmetrically. Finally, tie all the yarn tails neatly on the wrong side. Complete this part on your own. Lastly, apply a little blush under both eyes. Follow the same method for the other sleeve. Make the decorations symmetrically. Just complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the decorations. Up to this point, our tutorial for this sweater is complete. During the process, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our customer service. Susan's family, supporting your handwork experience. Enjoy the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you next time.